Laura Siegemund accused Coco Gauff of cheating right there on the court during a match, and it blew up in her face spectacularly. The German player went after Coco for time violations, complained to the umpire about fairness, and tried to make it seem like Coco was getting special treatment. The problem is that everyone watching, including the officials, knew exactly what Siegemund was doing. This wasn't about rules or fairness. This was about gamesmanship gone wrong, and the instant regret was written all over Siegemund's face. Do you think players who accuse opponents of cheating during matches should face harsher penalties?
How is this fair? No, you're calling the score after the point is over. It's not like we're playing 1 point. You're calling the score like 6 seconds after the point is over. After this match, you missed her like 4 times. She's never ready. It's not like we're having 30-ball rallies. It's 2 balls. She's going to me. You're very quick. I'm going a normal speed. Ask any ref here. I go a medium pace speed. But she can't every single point. And everybody in this crowd knows you're not doing your job. I've been quiet the whole match. Why do you think they clapped when you gave her a time violation? Because she's been missing for like 6 points. Not first set, every game, second set, every game. I didn't say nothing, but now it's ridiculous.
Laura Siegemund and Coco Gauff faced off in a match that quickly turned from tennis competition into a full-blown drama fest. And it was entirely Siegemund's doing. What should have been a straightforward match became a spectacle of complaints, accusations, and poor sportsmanship that had tennis fans shaking their heads. Siegemund decided that her best strategy wasn't to outplay Coco on the court, but to try and rattle her mentally by complaining about everything under the sun. The main complaint from Siegemund centered around time violations. She kept insisting that Coco was taking too long between points and that the umpire wasn't calling it consistently. Siegemund made a big show of pointing out that they'd been playing for 25 minutes and the umpire had only given Coco 1 time violation. She acted like this was some massive injustice, as if Coco was getting away with breaking the rules left and right while she was being held to a different standard.
To open this set.
I know, it's the rules. She's not allowed to sit.
Siegemund must have said something.
Here's the problem with Siegemund's argument. The umpire's job is to enforce the rules fairly, and that's exactly what was happening. If Coco was actually violating the time rules repeatedly, she would have been getting multiple violations and eventually point penalties. The fact that she only got 1 violation in 25 minutes suggests that she was mostly staying within the rules. Siegemund wasn't mad about unfairness. She was mad that her complaints weren't having the effect she wanted. The exchange between Siegemund and the umpire was something else. Siegemund said that every umpire does what this umpire was doing, giving players a bit of mercy on the time clock. The umpire calmly responded that no, not every umpire does that, and they both knew it. The umpire even pointed out that Siegemund was smiling because she knew the truth. That's a polite way of saying, you're full of it, and we both know it, so stop wasting everyone's time with these complaints. Siegemund then escalated by saying the umpire was calling the score after the point was over, as if that was somehow giving Coco an advantage. This is where her argument completely fell apart. The umpire calls the score after the point is over because that's literally how tennis works. You finish the point, then the score is called, then you prepare for the next point. Siegemund was basically complaining about the fundamental structure of tennis scoring because she was frustrated and looking for anything to complain about. The umpire's patience was clearly wearing thin. When Siegemund kept insisting that Coco wasn't ready after going to the towel between points, the umpire had heard enough. A point penalty was assessed, and suddenly Siegemund's strategy of complaining her way to victory backfired spectacularly. Instead of getting the call she wanted, she cost herself a point and made herself look like a poor sport in front of everyone watching.
It's the first time I'm crying in a press conference. As a tennis player, you are a performer. You owe the people. You owe the kids that watch. And I'm just a bit, at the end of the day, I go home and I can look at myself and I can say, I did a great job. But did I get anything from the people for that? Even less than a 0 because they treated me bad. Like, they treated me like I was a cheater, like I was like trying, sneaky ways to win this match or something. They treated me like I was a bad person. But there are people who are throwing rackets, who are screaming, who are like making bad gestures toward the audience. I did not one moment in the whole match, and there was a lot of tension going on. Not one moment I did anything. I was just slow. And that's something in the rule. I get my time violation. That's fine. Yeah. No, I don't know.
What Siegemund was trying to do is a classic gamesmanship tactic in tennis. When you can't beat someone with your tennis, you try to beat them mentally. You complain to the umpire loudly enough that your opponent hears it. You try to create an atmosphere of tension and controversy. You hope that the younger, less experienced player gets rattled and starts making mistakes. The problem is that Coco Gauff isn't easily rattled, and this strategy completely failed. Coco has faced this kind of behavior before. She's dealt with opponents trying to throw her off her game through various tactics. She's experienced enough now to know that the best response is to stay focused on her tennis and let the officials do their job. While Siegemund was busy complaining and arguing, Coco was probably just thinking about the next point and how to win it. That mental discipline is what separates champions from everyone else. The accusations of cheating, even if not stated explicitly in those exact words, were clearly implied in Siegemund's complaints. When you're saying that your opponent is getting unfair advantages, that the rules aren't being applied equally, that special treatment is happening, you're essentially accusing someone of cheating, or at least benefiting from corrupt officiating. That's a serious accusation to make, and it shouldn't be thrown around lightly just because you're losing a match. Tennis has clear rules about time between points. Players have 25 seconds from when the score is called to when they must start their service motion. The serve clock is visible to everyone, including players, officials, and fans watching on television. If Coco was consistently violating that time limit, it would be obvious to everyone. The fact that she only received one violation suggests she was managing her time appropriately, and Siegemund's complaints were just noise. What makes this situation even more ridiculous is that Siegemund herself is known for taking her time between points. She's not exactly the fastest player on tour when it comes to pace of play. For her to complain about someone else's pace is rich. It's like the pot calling the kettle black, except the kettle isn't even black in this case. Coco was following the rules, and Siegemund was just mad about it. The crowd's reaction to this whole situation was telling. Tennis crowds generally appreciate good sportsmanship and respect for the game. When a player starts complaining excessively and arguing with officials, the crowd tends to turn against them. You could hear the crowd's energy shift as Siegemund kept up her complaints. They weren't there to watch someone argue with an umpire. They were there to watch tennis, and Siegemund was preventing that from happening. Coco's composure throughout this whole ordeal was impressive. She didn't engage with Siegemund's complaints. She didn't argue back or try to defend herself. She let the umpire handle it and focused on playing tennis. That's the mark of a mature player who understands that getting drawn into drama is exactly what your opponent wants. By refusing to engage, Coco kept her mental energy focused on winning points instead of winning arguments. The point penalty that Siegemund received was entirely justified. She had been warned multiple times to stop complaining and focus on playing. She continued anyway, and the umpire had no choice but to enforce the rules. That point penalty probably cost Siegemund more than just that one point. It likely affected her mentally for the rest of the match, knowing that her strategy had backfired so badly. Social media absolutely roasted Siegemund for this behavior. Tennis fans called her out for poor sportsmanship, for trying to bully a younger player, for wasting everyone's time with baseless complaints. The video of the exchange went viral, and not in a good way for Siegemund. She became an example of what not to do on a tennis court, how not to handle losing, and how not to treat your opponent or the officials. The instant regret was visible on Siegemund's face when she realized her complaints had resulted in a point penalty instead of the outcome she wanted. You could see the moment where she understood that her strategy had completely backfired. Instead of rattling Coco, she'd hurt herself. Instead of getting favorable calls, she'd gotten penalized. Instead of looking like a victim of unfair officiating, she looked like a sore loser. This incident is part of a larger pattern of how Coco Gauff gets treated by some of her opponents. There seems to be a subset of players who can't accept that this young American is beating them fairly. They look for excuses. They make complaints. They try to create controversy where none exists. It happened with Arina-Camelia making excuses after losses. It happened with other players making dismissive comments. Now it's happening with Siegemund, accusing Coco of getting special treatment. The difference in how these two players conducted themselves during this match says everything about their character. Coco stayed professional, focused, and respectful throughout. Siegemund complained, argued, and tried to disrupt the flow of the match. One player was there to play tennis and win on merit. The other player was trying to win through gamesmanship and intimidation. The results speak for themselves about which approach is more effective. Tennis has a long history of players trying to use psychological tactics to gain an advantage. Some of it is accepted as part of the game, taking a bathroom break at a strategic time, calling for the trainer to disrupt your opponent's momentum, using your allotted time between points to the maximum. But there's a line between gamesmanship and poor sportsmanship, and Siegemund crossed it when she started making accusations about cheating and unfair treatment. The umpire in this match deserves credit for handling the situation professionally. They stayed calm, they enforced the rules consistently, they didn't let Siegemund's complaints influence their decisions, and they eventually imposed the appropriate penalty when the behavior continued. That's exactly what good officiating looks like. The umpire's job isn't to be popular with the players, it's to enforce the rules fairly and keep the match moving. What's interesting is that Siegemund's complaints actually prove the opposite of what she was trying to argue. If the officiating was truly biased in Coco's favor, the umpire would have ignored Siegemund's behavior and let her keep complaining. Instead, the umpire enforced the rules and penalized Siegemund when she crossed the line. That's not bias. That's consistent application of the rules to both players. The impact this kind of behavior has on the sport is worth considering. Tennis is trying to grow its audience, especially among younger fans. When potential new fans tune in and see a player behaving like Siegemund did, making unfounded accusations and arguing endlessly with officials, that's not a good look for the sport. It makes tennis look petty and unprofessional. Players have a responsibility to represent the sport well, and Siegemund failed that responsibility in this match. Coco's ability to maintain her focus despite all the distractions is a skill that will serve her well throughout her career. Top players need to be able to handle difficult opponents, hostile crowds, questionable calls, and everything else that can happen during a match. The mental side of tennis is just as important as the physical side, and Coco showed mental toughness beyond her years in how she handled Siegemund's behavior. The fact that this incident got so much attention also shows how much people care about Coco Gauff. She's become one of the faces of tennis, especially in America. When someone goes after her with baseless accusations, fans take notice and they defend her. That's the kind of support that only the biggest stars in sports enjoy. Siegemund probably didn't realize she was picking a fight not just with Coco, but with Coco's massive and passionate fan base. Looking at the bigger picture, this match and this incident are going to be remembered more for Siegemund's poor behavior than for anything that happened in the actual tennis. That's unfortunate for her because she's a capable player who's had success on tour. But when you make yourself the story for the wrong reasons, that's what people remember. She could have just played the match, accepted the outcome, and moved on. Instead, she created a controversy that damaged her reputation. The lesson here for other players is clear. Don't try to beat Coco Gauff through complaints and gamesmanship. It won't work. It'll make you look bad, and it might actually fire her up and make her play better. The best way to beat Coco is to play better tennis than her. That's it. That's the only strategy that has any chance of success. Everything else is just noise that makes you look like you can't win on merit. The instant regret that Siegemund experienced is something that will probably stick with her for a while. In the moment, she thought her strategy was working. She thought she was getting in Coco's head. She thought the umpire would eventually cave to her complaints. Instead, everything backfired. She got penalized, she lost the match, and she became a viral example of poor sportsmanship. That's not the kind of legacy any player wants. What's also worth noting is that this kind of behavior can affect a player's reputation with future umpires. Officials talk to each other. They remember which players are difficult and which players are respectful. When Siegemund plays future matches, umpires will remember how she behaved in this match. That's not going to work in her favor if she ever has a legitimate complaint about something. The boy who cried wolf effect is real in tennis officiating. Coco Gauff, walking away from this match with her head held high, having handled an ugly situation with grace and maturity, only adds to her growing legend. Every time someone tries to tear her down or throw her off her game, and she responds by staying professional and winning anyway, she proves that she belongs among the elite players in the sport. Siegemund tried to diminish Coco and ended up elevating her instead. Laura Siegemund learned the hard way that accusing Coco Gauff of cheating is a losing strategy. The complaints backfired, the point penalty came, and the tennis world watched someone self-destruct in real time. Coco handled it with the class and composure of a champion, while Siegemund became a cautionary tale about poor sportsmanship. If you appreciate players who let their game do the talking instead of making excuses, hit that like button and subscribe for more honest coverage of tennis drama.